The night was calm on the alien world. The moons glowed softly and the valley was covered in silver light. The alien girl, Lyra, walked alone near the edge of the forest. Her people always warned her not to go too far, but her heart was restless. She loved exploring, even if it meant trouble later. Her long ears twitched when she heard something strange. It was not the sound of wind or flowing water. It was not the cry of night creatures. It was something harder, faster, and louder. It shook the ground faintly and made the air vibrate. Lyra froze. Her people feared loud sounds. They believed harsh noise could damage the ears, even the mind. Music in her village was always soft, like the flow of streams or the hum of wind. But this sound was nothing like that. It was sharp, heavy, and full of energy. At first, Lyra covered her ears. The beats echoed through her chest like thunder trapped inside her body. She wanted to run. Her legs shook, her breath grew quick. Yet even with fear crawling inside her, she could not step away. Something about the sound pulled her closer. She moved through the tall grass, every step cautious. The strange music grew louder. It was not just noise, it had rhythm. It rose and fell like waves crashing, then calm before rising again with more force. Lyra's heart followed the pattern without her meaning to. Soon she reached a hill, and at the top she saw a glow. Bright-colored lights flashed in the distance. Red, blue, and white beams cut across the night sky. They moved in sync with the sound, as if the sky itself was dancing. Her breath caught. No alien in her valley had such lights. No one dared to play such dangerous sound. This could only mean one thing: a human was near. Lyra's people spoke of humans with mixed voices. Some said humans were wild, too loud, too bold. Others said they were kind but strange, always chasing energy and fire. Lyra had never seen one up close, and now at the top of the hill she felt both fear and burning curiosity. She crept forward until she reached the edge of the hill. Below, in a small clearing, stood a human man. His strange device glowed with blinking lights. Big black boxes stood on the ground, shaking with the force of the sound. The man moved his head and hands in rhythm, lost inside the storm of music. Lyra pressed her hands against her chest. Her ears hurt at first, but then something shifted. The longer she listened, the more she felt a strange energy flowing into her. It was wild yet alive. It was strong, yet not harmful. Her fear slowly melted into something else. Wonder. The human seemed free, unchained by rules or silence. His face carried joy, not pain, and suddenly Lyra's foot tapped on the ground without her choosing. Her body answered the music like it had been waiting all its life. She gasped and pulled her foot back. "No, this sound is dangerous," she whispered to herself. Yet her ears leaned forward again. Her chest wanted more of that thunder. The human turned slightly, and Lyra quickly dropped down behind the grass. Did he see her? Her heart raced faster than the beats of the music. If he found her spying, what would he do? Would he chase her away, or worse, invite her closer? The music roared again, heavy and alive. Lyra's mind swirled. She wanted to run back to safety, but a deeper part of her, a part she never knew before, wanted to stay. Something told her this sound would change everything. The girl who thought hard sound could only destroy was about to discover a new world, and it had only just begun. Lyra lay flat in the tall grass, her heart beating as fast as the heavy sound shaking the ground. She had never felt like this before, afraid, excited, alive. The human below kept moving with the strange rhythm, his device glowing brighter with each passing second. Her people always said humans were dangerous because they carried chaos inside them. Looking at him now, she did not see chaos. She saw freedom. Every motion of his body was fearless, like he was not afraid of being judged. Lyra envied that. The music pounded again, rolling through the trees. She pressed her hands against her ears, but this time she didn't want silence. She wanted more. Her body trembled with every beat, yet her spirit rose higher. It felt like the sound was unlocking something she had buried long ago. Then the human's head lifted. His eyes scanned the hilltops. Lyra's breath caught. Had he seen her? The lights from his device flashed across the valley, and for a moment she thought his gaze landed right on her hiding place. Her stomach twisted. She knew she should run back to her village before he spotted her, but she didn't. Instead, Lyra crawled closer, careful not to make a sound. The human adjusted his strange box, and suddenly the rhythm changed. The beats became faster, sharper. The ground shook harder. The air buzzed as if alive. Lyra gasped, almost laughing in disbelief. This was not noise, it was power. Her hand tapped against the earth. Her tail flicked without her control. The music was not hurting her ears anymore. It was calling her. The human lifted one hand high, his fingers curled as though he held lightning. He shouted words she couldn't understand, but they carried the same energy as the music. It was as if the stars themselves answered his cry. Lyra's chest filled with heat. She wanted to leap into the clearing, to join him, to let herself go the way he did. But fear chained her feet. What if he attacked her? What if the sound really did damage her body like her elders claimed? Her ears twitched again, no pain. Just vibration, just thrill. Suddenly one of the lights turned and swept across the hill. Lyra flinched, too late. The beam lit up her face, her silver hair glowing like fire in the night. The music stopped. Silence crashed down like a hammer. Lyra froze, her breath locked in her throat. Down below, the human stared straight at her. His eyes were wide, not with anger, but with shock. Then he smiled. It was a small, curious smile, as if he had been waiting for someone to find him. He raised his hand slowly, not to attack, not to threaten, but to wave. Lyra blinked, her whole body tense. The silence was heavier than the music. She had two choices: run back to the valley and pretend none of this ever happened, or step down the hill toward the one creature her people warned her about. The human spoke, his voice carrying easily through the night. She didn't know his language, but his tone was calm, inviting. He pointed at the strange box, then at her, then tapped his chest as if saying, "This is mine. Do you want to try?" Her throat tightened. No alien in her village would believe this moment. No one would dare to stand in front of a human, not with such strange machines, not with such dangerous noise. And yet, her feet moved forward. One step. Then another. The grass brushed against her legs as she slowly descended the hill. The human didn't move, only watched her with that same soft smile, waiting. Lyra stopped at the edge of the clearing. Her heart was a storm inside her chest. She wanted to ask so many questions, but fear sealed her lips. The human bent over his device again. Then, with a flick of his hand, the music started once more. The heavy beats crashed out, shaking the night. But this time he kept his eyes on her, as if telling her, "This sound is not your enemy." Her ears twitched. Her chest rose. Slowly, without meaning to, Lyra took another step closer to the sound that could destroy her, or change her forever. Lyra stood at the edge of the clearing, her hands trembling. The human's strange box thundered again, releasing heavy sound into the night. The beats crashed like hammers, yet each one sent a strange warmth through her chest. Her people always said loud noise was poison. But standing here, Lyra felt no poison. She felt alive. The human tilted his head, studying her with calm eyes. He made no move to chase her away. Instead, he nodded once, like he was telling her she was safe. That single gesture gave her the courage to take another step forward. The ground vibrated under her bare feet. The music was too much for her mind to understand, yet her body understood perfectly. Her heart followed the rhythm. Her tail twitched to the beat. Her ears caught every sharp note. The human grinned. He moved his head again in that strange up and down motion, his hair flying, his body loose and wild. Lyra watched, confused and fascinated. How could someone enjoy such chaos? And yet, looking at him, she almost wanted to move like that too. He tapped his chest and shouted a single word: "Music." Lyra blinked. The sound was alien to her, but she guessed it was the name of the strange thunder pouring from his machine. Music. So this storm has a name. She pointed at her ear, then shook her head quickly, trying to explain she could not take too much. The human seemed to understand. He turned to the glowing device and twisted one of its parts. Instantly, the thunder softened. The beat still shook the ground, but it no longer roared like a beast. Lyra gasped. He could control it. This chaos could be shaped like water in a cup. The human motioned toward her, encouraging her to come closer. Lyra hesitated. She looked back at the dark hill, the safe path to her quiet valley. Her elders' warnings rang in her mind. Humans are wild. Their ways will break you. But her feet betrayed her. Step by step, she walked closer to the glowing machine. The music wrapped around her, not like claws, but like waves. For the first time, she let it touch her without resistance. The human's smile grew wider. He pressed something on the box, and the rhythm changed again. Faster, sharper, filled with energy. Lyra flinched at first, but then her chest rose and her foot tapped the ground. Tap, tap, tap. Her eyes widened. She was moved. The human laughed, not mocking, but joyful. He pointed at her foot, then lifted his own and stomped in rhythm. Together, their steps echoed against the night. Lyra's ears twitched wildly. She wanted to cover them, but something stronger inside her whispered, "Don't hide. Listen." The music grew heavier, and without realizing, Lyra swayed her body. Her silver hair shimmered under the flashing lights. She felt strange, foolish, yet free. Her people would faint if they saw her now, standing next to a human, letting her body dance to dangerous sound. Her laughter slipped out, small, nervous but real. The human froze for a second, surprised by the sound of her laugh. Then he laughed too, louder, like thunder itself had found a voice. For a brief moment, the world shrank to just the two of them, a human and an alien girl, sharing a rhythm that belonged to neither but welcomed both. But in the back of her mind, fear remained. If her people discovered this, they would punish her. If the elders learned she had listened to a human's thunder, they might even cast her out, and yet, as the music rose again, Lyra realized something dangerous. She didn't care. She wanted more. The alien girl who once feared the hard sound had just taken her first step into it, and there was no turning back. The clearing pulsed with light and sound. Lyra stood only a few steps from the human now, her body trembling but not from fear. The rhythm had wrapped around her like invisible chains, pulling her closer to a world she never knew existed. The human's box roared again, heavy beats shaking the earth. Lyra's ears twitched, but no pain came, only a rush of energy. She tried to resist, but her foot kept tapping. Her tail flicked in rhythm, her shoulders swayed slightly. The human noticed. His grin widened and he spun a dial on the glowing device. The sound shifted again, this time even louder, sharper, more alive. Lyra gasped. The ground thudded beneath her like a giant's heartbeat. She wanted to cover her ears, but she didn't. Instead, her hands lifted slightly, her body answering the storm. The human moved with wild freedom, his head shaking, his arms beating the air. He was chaos, yet not cruel chaos. He was joy shaped into motion. "Dance!" he shouted over the thunder. Lyra did not know the word, but she understood. His body showed her what it meant. Her breath hitched. Dance with him? The thought burned through her. No one in her village ever moved like this. Their songs were quiet, their steps soft. But this was different. It was wild, unchained, dangerous, and something inside her wanted to try. Slowly, clumsily, she moved her feet in rhythm. Her body swayed, her arms rose a little. She felt heat rush to her face, embarrassed by how foolish she must look. But the human only laughed, cheering her on. The sound shifted again, faster, harder. Lyra almost stumbled, but her heart beat with the rhythm carrying her forward. She let herself go just a little more. Her hair swung, her tail flicked, her steps grew bolder. Then it happened, she laughed again. Not nervous this time, but free. The sound of her own laughter shocked her. She hadn't laughed like this since she was a child. The human laughed too, matching her energy. For a moment it felt like the universe had shrunk into this small clearing. No elders, no rules, no fear. Just two beings and the storm of sound they shared. But as Lyra spun once, the beam of light swept across the forest edge. Her smile faded instantly. In the distance, shadows moved, figures watching. Her blood turned cold. She recognized the tall forms of her people, elders and hunters from the valley. They must have followed her when she left. And now they stood frozen, staring at her in horror. One elder raised his hand and shouted something in their tongue. His voice carried anger and fear. He pointed at the human's machine as though it were a weapon. Lyra stumbled back. Her chest heaved, panic rising. She looked at the human, who frowned, confused by the sudden tension. He didn't understand their language, but he saw their faces. Disgust, fear, rage. The music still roared, but now it felt like fire pressing against her skin. Her people shouted again, calling her away, warning her. Some raised their spears. The human's smile faded. His eyes darted between Lyra and the aliens in the shadows. He reached toward his machine, his hand hovering over it. Should he stop the sound? Should he protect himself? Lyra's heart twisted. She stood between two worlds, the safe, quiet valley ruled by fear and the wild storm that had awakened her spirit. If she ran back to her people, they would drag her away and forbid her from ever seeing a human again. But if she stayed, she would be branded as corrupted, perhaps even exiled. The music thundered on. Demanding her choice, her ears rang. Her chest burned. She looked at her people, then at the human. And for the first time in her life, Lyra didn't want to obey. The music pounded in Lyra's chest. But now it was no longer just a rhythm. It was a test. Her people stood at the edge of the clearing, their faces twisted in anger and fear. The human stood beside his strange box, tense but calm, his eyes never leaving her. The elders shouted again. Their voices cut through the storm of sound, calling her back, demanding she leave the human side. Some of the hunters raised their spears, pointing them toward the strange lights and heavy noise. To them it was not music. It was corruption. Lyra's knees shook. All her life she had obeyed. She had followed the rules, lived in quiet, bowed her head when told. But tonight the storm had changed her. She had felt freedom for the first time, and she did not want to give it back. The human tilted his head, studying her. He did not speak her language, but his eyes asked the question clearly. Will you go with them, or will you stay? Her throat tightened. She could almost hear her mother's voice from years ago. Silence keeps us safe, child. Noise will destroy us, but her heart argued back, noise has not destroyed you. It has made you stronger. One elder stepped forward. His voice shook with fury as he shouted, pointing directly at her. She knew the words even without listening carefully. You shame us. Come back now. Lyra's hands curled into fists. Her legs wanted to move, but not toward them. Instead, she found herself stepping closer to the human. Gasps filled the night. Her people's eyes widened in disbelief. To them, that single step was betrayal. The human, seeing her choice, turned his machine down. The heavy beats softened into a gentler rhythm. He was not trying to fight, not trying to provoke. He wanted to show peace, but the elders did not see peace. They saw defiance. One hunter pulled back his spear, ready to throw. Lyra cried out, her voice sharp with fear. She rushed forward, standing between the human and her people. The clearing went silent again, not from the machine, but from shock. No one expected her to protect him, not even the human. Her chest rose and fell quickly. She spoke in her people's tongue, her voice trembling but firm. He is not hurting me. The sound is not killing me. Look, I am alive. The elders growled. They shouted back that she was blinded, that the noise had poisoned her mind. They called her lost. Lyra shook her head. No, she said louder. I was lost before. Quiet made me blind, but this sound opened my eyes. The human didn't understand the words, but he understood her body. He saw the fire in her stance, the way she faced her people with courage. His lips curved into a small smile, not of victory but of respect. The hunters lowered their spears slightly, uncertain. Some murmured among themselves. They had expected her to fall in pain, not to stand tall and proud. One elder snarled, demanding again that she return. But Lyra's heart pounded harder than the rhythm ever could. She turned her back to them, her first act of true rebellion. She stood beside the human, her shoulders square, her chin lifted. It was dangerous. It was foolish. It was everything her people feared, but it was also freedom. The human gently reached toward his machine again. This time he played a softer rhythm, one that pulsed like a heartbeat instead of thunder. Lyra closed her eyes and let it wash over her. Her people watched, their anger clashing with confusion. They could see with their own eyes. She was not harmed. She was smiling. She was alive. For a long moment, no one moved. And then for the first time, one of the younger aliens stepped out from the shadows. He lowered his spear and tilted his head, curious. His ears twitched as he listened. Lyra's breath caught. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only one who wanted to hear the storm. But the elders' faces hardened. They would not allow this to spread. Not without a fight. The night was far from over. The clearing had become a battlefield of hearts. On one side, the elders and hunters, their faces hard as stone, their voices sharp with anger. On the other, Lyra, trembling but unbroken, standing beside the human and his strange box of thunder. The younger alien who had stepped forward still lingered, his ears twitching to the rhythm. But the elder's eyes burned with fury, and they pulled him back, warning him not to be deceived. To them, Lyra was already lost. Noise eats the mind, one elder shouted. His voice was filled with fear disguised as authority. Look at her. She has forgotten who she is. Lyra's voice cracked but did not break. No, I remember now. I was blind in silence. This sound woke me. The human could not understand the words, but he could feel the storm of emotions in the air. He glanced at Lyra, then back at the angry crowd. Slowly, he turned the dial on his machine again. The beat grew stronger, faster. The ground shook. The trees trembled. Lyra's people flinched, covering them. The human was not trying to hurt them, he was showing them. showing that this sound was not a weapon, but a force of life. Lyra lifted her arms, moving to the beat without shame. She turned her steps into rhythm, letting her body dance freely. Every move shouted her defiance. Every laugh broke the chains her people had placed on her since childhood. The younger alien stared, eyes wide. His body swayed slightly before he quickly stopped, afraid of the elder's wrath. But his expression betrayed something dangerous: curiosity. The elders saw it too, and their fear deepened. If Lyra's rebellion spread, others would question the old ways. They would lose control. One of the hunters stepped forward, spear raised high. His voice was sharp as he shouted at the human. Though the words were unknown, the threat was clear. Lyra's heart pounded. She jumped between the hunter and the human, arms spread wide. "No!" she cried. Her voice rang out like a crack of lightning. The hunter froze, shocked by her boldness. The elders gasped. Never before had one of their own stood against them. The human's hand hovered near his device, ready to silence it if needed. But Lyra shook her head at him. "Don't stop," she whispered. Even if he could not understand, her eyes told him everything. The sound must continue, he nodded. The rhythm thundered louder. Something inside Lyra snapped free. She shouted at her people, her voice raw. "This does not kill me. It gives me strength. You hide from the world in silence, but I will not hide any more." The elders shouted back, calling her cursed, warning the others not to listen. Yet their voices cracked under the storm. For every beat that struck the ground, their authority weakened. The younger alien took one step forward again. His spear lowered, his eyes wide with longing. He whispered softly, almost too low to hear. "Music." Lyra's heart leapt. He had said the human's word. He had felt it too. The elders snapped toward him, rage in their eyes. But it was too late. A seed had been planted. The clearing shook as the rhythm grew wilder. Lyra's body moved freely now, every step and sway shouting rebellion. The human joined her, stomping his feet, his energy rising like fire. Together, alien and human danced in defiance, their joy louder than fear. The elders screamed, but their voices were swallowed by the storm. They could not stop it anymore. Lyra's people had seen with their own eyes. Sound was not poison. It was freedom. And Lyra, once the quiet girl of the valley, had become its lightning strike. The night sky burned with light. The human's machine roared, every beat shaking the ground like the steps of giants. Lyra stood in the center of the clearing, her body moving without fear. For the first time in her life, she was not obeying. She was living. The elders shouted again, but their words no longer cut through her heart. They sounded weak, like fading echoes against the storm of rhythm. Hunters who once looked fierce now shifted uncomfortably, their hands trembling on their spears. The younger alien stood near them, his eyes wide. He had whispered the word music once, and now it clung to him like fire. He could not look away from Lyra. She danced harder, spinning, her silver hair glowing under the flashing lights. She laughed out loud, a sound full of courage and joy. Her people had never heard such a laugh. It was wild, strong, unbroken. The human stomped beside her, his grin wide, his movements bold. He shouted words she could not understand, but she felt their meaning. Do not stop. Do not fear. Be free. The younger alien could not hold back anymore. With one sudden step, he dropped his spear. The sound of it hitting the ground was sharp, final. He moved into the clearing, his body swaying awkwardly, trying to follow the rhythm. Gasps echoed from the elders. They barked orders, trying to pull him back. But it was too late. He was already moving to the beat. Lyra's chest swelled with hope. She reached her hand toward him. "Don't fear," she said softly. "It will not destroy you. It will set you free." The boy's ears twitched. He took her hand, and together they moved with the storm. Two aliens, once chained by silence, now alive with sound. The elders' control cracked. Their eyes darted between the young and the old, between fear and curiosity. Some hunters still clutched their weapons, but their stance had weakened. Doubt had entered their hearts. One elder, the fiercest of them all, stepped forward, his voice shaking with rage. "This ends now," he roared. He lifted his spear high, ready to strike the human's machine. Lyra's blood turned to fire. In a flash, she ran forward, blocking his path. "No!" she shouted, louder than she had ever spoken before. Her voice rose above the thunder. "You will not silence this. You will not silence me." The elder froze. His arm trembled, his eyes wide at her defiance. She was no longer the quiet girl of the valley. She was something new, something dangerous to his rule. The human, sensing the moment, twisted his machine again. The beat exploded into its fiercest rhythm yet, wild, heavy, unstoppable. The clearing shook like the heartbeat of the world itself. And then something miraculous happened. One by one, more of the younger aliens lowered their spears. Their feet tapped. Their bodies swayed. Slowly they joined the rhythm. First one, then two, then many. The clearing filled with hesitant steps that grew bolder with each beat. The elders shouted, but their voices were drowned out. For the first time, their power slipped through their fingers. Lyra lifted her head high, her body glowing with sweat and light. She looked at the human, and he smiled back as if to say, "You see? You are never alone." Tears filled her eyes, not of sorrow, but of release. She turned to her people and shouted, "This is not poison. This is life. You feared it, but it is ours now." The music thundered, and the valley listened. The elders, pale and shaken, stepped back. Their commands were useless now. The young had chosen, and even some of the older hunters no longer resisted. The storm had broken the chains of silence. Lyra closed her eyes, letting the sound carry her. The girl who once thought hard noise would destroy her had discovered the truth. It had saved her. The human lifted his hand high in the air, his grin fierce, and the aliens who danced with him followed, raising their arms to the sky. The storm of music became more than sound. It became freedom, and under the glowing moons of the alien world a new story began, not of silence but of rhythm.